Well, thank you all very much, and thank you to you, Treasurer. If you'd like to grab a microphone, we'll get underway. I do get to ask the Treasurer a lot of questions. I was in lockup yesterday. She said to me when she first arrived for lunch, "I've seen a bit of you lately," and it is true, that will continue. I do want to make sure we leave enough time for your questions, though. Like I said, I get to ask them all the time. Quite a number of you, have paid some good money to come here today. So we will have some roving mics moving around, ready to take some questions from the floor. Throw your hand up when I say it's time to get going, and we'll get a microphone to you. I might just start off, Treasurer, by saying you said you're pretty frank in your conversations.
Generally, you tell me. I get told that by others.
All right, do you promise to be frank with us today?
Yeah, of course.
All right, let's start off then. The government doesn't have a great track record on budget discipline. Agree?
I'll let you do the commentary, Heidi, in relation to those remarks. But being the Treasurer it's a tough gig. I would like to acknowledge my predecessor, Tim. Absolutely, I learn a lot off him. Governments want to do so much, and it's often the Treasurer who has to be the one that says you can't. It makes you somewhat popular with your colleagues because they want to see you, but they don't always get the answers that they want. So it is my responsibility as Treasurer to be the one that has the discipline. I think particularly right now, households around the state, around the world, are watching every dollar of their money. I think they expect that from their Treasurer in Victoria.
How will you keep growth under 3% going forward? And I mean expenses growth. And what role in that will the Silver Review play?
Yeah, look, to be frank, I like to surround myself with smart people. I like to surround myself with people that can give me good advice. The public sector operating costs is one of the driving issues for budget responsibility. So it is something that has been attempted in the past to reduce the size of the public sector, and those attempts have not been successful.
Will yours?
That's why I brought in Helen. Helen has assembled a really good team. She's been doing a lot of hard work in identifying a range of areas that government could look to consolidate. She's looking at duplication. She's looking at entity reform. And this isn't about just becoming smaller, it's about becoming better. It's about making sure that we are focused on the main priorities of Victorians. What we tend to do as a government, and what I've experienced, is we do really good things, we have new initiatives, we respond to community needs. No more clearer, obvious examples of that is responding to family violence and mental health, and we had royal commissions into both. So we've directed so much investment into areas that matter, or that matter most, while not necessarily making the decisions to stop others. And that's not to say that some of those smaller programs and some of those programs that have been around for a long time aren't good. They're just probably not as good as some of the others that we've later invested. So rather than shedding and stopping things, we haven't been very good at that. And this is an opportunity to do it. In terms of some of the material that I spoke about yesterday, Heidi, you were in the room, but currently Victoria has 500 entities and 3,400 public boards and committees. That was the initial findings of Helen's advice to us. Reducing a board or stopping at work actually delivers zero, most unpaid boards, zero savings. But what it could do, if we consider how we can consult better with the purpose of those boards, actually free up a public servant who's responsible for servicing and maintaining the operations of those boards. They're the types of things that we're looking at.
Talk to me about capital expenditure. What does it mean in your mind for the economy more broadly?
Capital expenditure is productive. It's productive expenditure. As I went through my presentation, going down the Metro Tunnel and recognising what that's going to do for the city, particularly a really, really quickly growing city. These are the investments that if we don't make now, people in the future will say, well, what did you do? Westgate Tunnel, the opening of that, talking to Saul and the opportunities for the port and economic growth of those projects. These are important projects that Victorians expect governments to do. Around the world, this is the expectation of governments. We have spent a lot on infrastructure. and we know that to ensure that we're living within our means, we're moderating our costs on expenditure, capital expenditure, and you would have seen that in some of the presentation.
Do you reckon we haven't been living with... Are you prepared to concede we haven't been living within our means the last couple of budgets?
Well, if you look at the reason that we have debt, would have we changed any of the decisions that we made? The infrastructure that we've invested in is important, productive infrastructure that Victorians in generations are going to benefit from. If the federal government, if we had a decent partner at the time of those projects, then we wouldn't have had to have put all of the money in ourselves. That's one component. We would also be in a much better position had we not had to use our balance sheet to protect Victorians from a 1 in 100 year pandemic. Choosing to invest in business, choosing to invest in health, that cost money. And yes, we look at the columns now, but that was really important money to spend. And now it's my opportunity to make sure that I'm doing the right things in response to that.
Well, I think plenty of businesses in this room would know they're paying to help with that COVID debt. There is a whole levy on them for that. It's earning more than it was supposed to earn, I think, or forecast to earn. Are you comfortable with it staying as is?
Well, I've got no announcements in relation to reduction of the 10 years that it will be in place. I think we're in year 3, so let's give it a little more time.
But in terms of tax reform and tax review, any plans to get really firmly into reforming taxes, particularly for business?
The number one message that I heard from business in the lead up to this budget, so the 5 months I've been in the role, was we can't deal with additional taxes. And I've stayed true to that, and there are no new taxes. Extending this stamp duty concessions for off-the-plan apartments, townhouses and units has been welcome. There are a number of other suggestions that are on the table. I know
but why did they stay on the table and not come into being in the budget papers?
So the conversations with the property sector in particular, there are a number of taxes that obviously help us raise revenue to deliver the services that we deliver, and I went through and complained about the limited levers that I have. What we're doing with the planning minister in particular and the housing minister is we have a focus on building more homes. And the property sector have a similar objective. So we want to make sure that the settings are right to produce the outcomes that we need. And there's conversations that we're having. I think when you look at tax, it's only one part of the equation. Planning reform, regulatory red tape reduction and the like, time is money. Where government can make it easier for investment, business, property to do what they do, that is also a way that can stimulate business. So that there's a broader piece to continue to have those conversations.
And just back to the frankness, would you agree that the cost of living headlines are more important than the cost of doing business headlines? You're more focused on helping with cost of living than cost of doing business?
I don't think you can sort of have one without the other. This budget, the decisions that we made were about balancing up a number of priorities. When you are hearing that families are really struggling, when you've got people that are considering about whether they turn the heater on or not, is a responsibility for government to step in and provide cost of living support. But when you look at our jobs growth, you look at what the business community do in terms of providing opportunity for people, that's hand in glove. You might have heard messages about cost of living in the last couple of days, but I'm here talking business today.
Well, yeah, today, but I think there'd be a lot of business in the room that would say it is tough doing business, similar to how it's tough for households to be affording their bills. Are the households more important than the businesses? Do you think you're finding the right balance?
Well, it's my job to balance priorities. I think we've got the balance right in this budget. We've delivered the surplus, we've invested in our frontline services, delivered cost of living relief, fully implemented the funding for the economic growth statement and had no new taxes. That kind of covers a fair few bases, but it's first budget, 5 months in the job. I've got at least one more budget, hopefully more, to be delivering, and I'll continue to have those conversations and continue to balance up the priorities that matter most to Victorians.
Do you reckon you did enough in this one first budget to give you more into the future? Next year's budget has to be, nice. You can't swing the axe next year.
I delivered a surplus this year. I was pretty proud about that.
That surplus will survive?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
All right. I might throw it open for questions from the floor. I do have a whole pile more I can keep going with, but I want to make sure we hear from you. Just throw your hand up. We've got some microphones around the room to come to you if you've got a question.
I think they like your question.
No one so far. All right, I'll keep going. The economic growth statement was a strong signal when it was released last year, and you have funded it in the budget.
I brought it with me.
Are you... Oh, handy. Are you open to further funding initiatives in there? And how would that look?
So I think the economic growth statement is funded in full in relation to those initiatives, and a lot of that work will be led by Minister for Finance, Danny Pearson. But I think what I'm particularly excited about as well is the $150 million investment fund. So that's about working with businesses to grow their operations, because we're motivated to employ more people. We want more job creation in Victoria. We have a very strong record of the Labor government in delivering that. That is certainly a key focus for me.
We've got a question for you in the middle of the room. I might just ask you to identify yourself, and I should have said this earlier, I'm not a big fan of editorials and long preambles. Short, punchy questions, short, punchy answers. Happy days.
Treasurer Mitchell Price from ARIO. How can we ensure public transport works end-to-end for Victorians, especially in bridging the gap between major hubs and local communities?
Go give us one more time. Sorry, we missed a little bit at the start.
That's all right, I'll repeat it. How can we ensure public transport works end-to-end for Victorians, especially in bridging the gap between major and local hubs?
You're doing enough for buses and trams and things, connections between major and local hubs?
Yeah, so massive investment in this year's budget in not just trains, and I talk about Metro Tunnel obviously because it is the largest project in the public transport network at the moment. But what I would say is that there is investment in more buses and more trams as well, and additional services in regional Victoria. What we hear time and time again in the outer suburbs particular is that how important buses are. And I think I was quite impressed by your little scooter as well, actually. I've never been on one of those paid scooters, but I reckon I'd go on yours.
Paul for a while wanted us both to ride in on one today.
Yeah.
Paul wanted us to ride in on one.
Oh, maybe on the way out. But it's a great question in terms of connectivity. I think you'll see, particularly with the projects that we've delivered in the past, we're all about active transport as well. The level crossing removal projects, for instance, is all about ensuring that there's greater access for people to get around, and that includes not just in your cars, obviously. So it is something that we're conscious of, but very happy to have further conversations with you or connect you with the Public Transport Minister at any time.
I do see the Lord Mayor out there. You like these new scooters, Nick? Oh, no, I won't put you on the spot, sorry. Any other questions? Any other questions? We've got one down here at table 8. Just again, if you can identify yourself and short, punchy question preferably. Microphone coming to you now.
Well, thank you. My name is Paul Klasaris. I'm the Mayor of the City of Monash, but I also have been in business for over 30 years. Treasurer, those of us that are in business will always talk about good debt and bad debt. Mm-hmm. Good debt is when you're investing in your business to improve it, to buy infrastructure and the like. Mine is more of a statement. I'd like to hear more from the government in educating the public, the general public, about the importance of good debt and what it delivers. Because we've got a good story to tell, and I would encourage you to do more of that. Thank you.
I need more advocates like you out there. I did really like that statement, and I agree with you, and I'll be louder.
Well, I'll pick up the piece of advice and turn it into a question for you. Is the whole $194 billion in 2029 all good debt?
A lot of it is in relation to the infrastructure. And a lot of it is...
So yes?
Yeah, well, productive. I agree with the Mayor. productive infrastructure means you grow your economy. Growing your economy is a good thing. In relation to the debt that was accrued during COVID, it's not productive debt, but it was necessary debt. And that's why we have to take responsible decisions to ensure we are best placed to ensure we are managing that debt. And part of that is achievable by the good debt.
When we were much younger and Labor came to power, 2014, I think Dan made a point of keeping debt to GSP below 6%. It doubled to 12%. It's now sitting at 25%. Maybe it's going to come down a little. What's the government's target going forward? Genuinely, is 25%, 20% comfortable to you, acceptable to you?
Look, what we have is a fiscal strategy that we are going to be disciplined in achieving. Step 3 was delivering the surplus. Step 4 and 5 are about stabilising and reducing debt as a share of the economy. You'll see across the forwards that we are looking at getting under 25% by 28-29. So that is my objective and my goal at this time.
Is it going to meaningfully shift downwards?
Well, good question for these people. Growing our economy, and the bigger it is, the smaller our percentage will be. So there's a lot of collaboration and partnerships involved in relation to making sure that the economy is strong. The stronger the economy is, the more easy it is to service those types of costs.
And now just imagine if you cut taxes to business a little. We've got one way down the back, I think. Oh, sorry, one a bit closer in first, and then we'll come down the back.
Thanks very much. Sally Curtin from Bendigo Kangan Institute. Firstly, declare a conflict and delight to see the $3 million funded in the economic growth statement for the artificial intelligence project that we'll be leading. But how is the budget helping Victoria take advantage of artificial intelligence or making sure our people, jobs and systems are ready for the changes it brings?
Look, it's a great question, Sally, and thank you for your work in the TAFE sector in particular. We are a government that is strongly supporting TAFE, making sure that people can get the skills they need to fill the jobs that Victoria needs. That's why we have free TAFE in particular, to make sure more and more people can get the skills that they need so that they can take the jobs, particularly in the trade sector and the construction sector, again, talking about building the economy, but right across the board. Not to mention all of our services areas, obviously. I'm very pleased that you are leading the work in the AI development of the skills credentialing. We know right now there are actually a lot of people out there that are skilled to do work but don't have the piece of paper that says that they can. And not only is that frustrating for those people, but it's expensive for business to have to fund retraining and the like just to get an accreditation that people probably already have. The project and the work that you do will be a good demonstration of where AI can speed up these types of processes and be positive for business. This is just one example of AI across the board, and I certainly don't pretend to be an expert in this space, but the opportunities for AI for productive businesses and to increase production is immense. We need to get ahead of that in a regulatory sense, identify the risks and be a leader in the nation in relation to that. And it's projects such as yours that can lead the way in that regard. But there is a lot of work across government in this space, and I think there is a lot of early starters in the business community as well, and that's certainly something that I would welcome feedback on in relation to some of the projects that you are working on, because I think sharing that type of information across the board only benefits everyone.
And we've got one more question down the back, I think. Yep, go ahead.
Ilsa Hampton from the Australian Dental Association Victorian branch. Congratulations, Treasurer, on the surplus. My question is about the investment in dental care. We're very sad that it has not increased. 2.4 million people are eligible for public dental in Victoria. Only 400,000 places are funded. Cost of living, cost of doing business, really big impact on private dental. So can we hope for some measures in the next budget that will help people access vital oral health services?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question, and the dental sector, and again, I hear regularly from communities that have difficulty accessing dental, so thank you for your advocacy in that regard. This year's budget invests more than $11 billion in health. A lot of that is going towards opening Footscray and Frankston Hospital, but also opening some community hospitals in areas such as Cranbourne and Craigieburn, and there's a list of others. We have been in discussions in the fact that those community hospitals could be opportunities for things like dental, things like dialysis, things that we know Victorians need to access. So I'd very much welcome a conversation with you, perhaps direct you to the Minister for Health, because what you talk about is things that we do talk about at the Cabinet table, and I think it's something that we can certainly look at.
Thank you very much. We've got one more down the back here. Familiar face to you, I think, Treasurer?
Yes, a press gallery question. Thanks, Heidi. Hi, Treasurer. Simon Love from Sky News. When you head to New York later in the month or further into winter, will you be lobbying the ratings agencies to maintain Victoria's credit rating at AA, or are you going to be trying to push to get that credit rating back to AAA?
Thanks for your question, Simon, and I will be heading to New York at the start of June, and part of that trip is to engage with the ratings agencies and let them know about the work we're doing. I did, in my presentation, read out some initial remarks from some of the rating agencies, which are sending me a clear message about the job that I need to do, and so having those conversations in person is something that I welcome.
We might have time for just one more question. Can I see? We've got one down the front here. I'll try to get a microphone to you, sir. I might just make my second last question be to you, Treasurer. You've got 560 business leaders, give or take, in the room right now. What is your pitch to them? Why should they keep investing in Victoria, and why now in particular?
That's a great question, Heidi. I went through a lot of figures and graphs, and it says how great things are. I know it can be better, and I know that you want a government that partners with you, doesn't make your life harder. I want to give you the commitment that I want to work with you. I want to ensure that we are both achieving the goals that I think that we collectively share. That is growing the economy, employing more people, and really bringing life to the stats that I talked about, and there is more work to do in that regard. I do welcome your feedback, your advice, your advocacy. Never ever going to be able to do everything that you want, and I think you appreciate that, but the constructive dialogue is something that I particularly welcome.
All right, one final question from the floor, just down here, table 8.
Wonderful, thank you. My name is Luca Ragnan. I'm the Deputy Mayor of Glenara City Council. Thank you, Treasurer, for coming today, and I really appreciate that the budget surplus is a fantastic result for Victorians. My question is about housing. So, as a young person and as a representative on council, it's no surprise that the housing crisis is really affecting a lot of Victorians. And I note that the federal government has put a record amount of investment into addressing this crisis, and I was very glad to read that the Victorian government is also doing their part. So my question is, obviously there has to be collaboration between different levels of government, and I'd love to hear more about your plan and the Victorian government's plan to help Victorians out. Thank you.
Yeah, I know there were some in the construction industry not entirely happy with the budget yesterday, that there weren't more levers pulled. Yeah,
look, housing is certainly one of the number one priorities of the government, and you'd appreciate that because you've just articulated, Deputy Mayor, why. We want more young people to be able to get into homes. We want them to be able to live close to where they grew up, if they want to live near their parents, of course. There is a range of initiatives that we look to, whether it's the first home buyer grants, whether it's that off the plan concessions that we have for apartments, units and townhouses. There's the activity centres in relation to ensuring that more homes can be built around the services that exist. There is a lot of work going on in this space. I would certainly welcome feedback from your council. I know the Planning Minister and Housing Minister would as well. We have made it a key objective of our government to get millennials into housing, just like you. And I think we've got a lot of good initiatives, and there's certainly more work to do.
final two from me. I lied. Very quick one though. Jacqueline or Jack?
I'm Jack.
Now's the time to say it. Now's which one?
I'm Jack.
All right, we can call her Jack from here on in. Jack Symes. And hand on heart, first budget. This is the best you could do. I mean it genuinely. Was this the best? You could. Are you happy with it? Did it deliver everything you wanted it to deliver? You spoke before the budget, when you first became Treasurer, about setting a different path. Look, did you set a different enough path?
I didn't get my own way every time, no. It's the way I think about the world since being Treasurer is completely different. As a minister that's had responsibility for a lot of portfolios, from agriculture to resources, regional development, Attorney General, emergency services, you want as much money as you can for your portfolio because you want to do great things. Now I'm the Treasurer, it's like, you can do great things, but I don't want it to cost very much money. Like I was at the Metro Tunnel, fantastic project, but I was going down there going, this costs a lot of money.
A lot of money.
So do I think I've delivered I've had, with the help of my colleagues, we've delivered a budget that does what we said we would do, so deliver a surplus. Meets people where they're at, particularly those who are doing it tough, cost of living, and makes sure that the services that Victorians rely on, particularly health, has received the funding that it gets. Your question might be better directed to all the ministers that I said no to.
Which ones were they?
Most of them. As I said, this is my first budget. I've got more work to do, but I am proud of this budget.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Symes, the Treasurer.